Welcome to the Galactic Academy of Xenobiology, where the galaxy's most prestigious minds come to study the universe's deadliest creatures. And by prestigious, I mean utterly delusional. This particular institution floats majestically in the Andromeda sector, looking like a chrome-plated donut that someone left in space too long. Our story begins with Instructor Vex Thornspike, a Zentorian who stands about 8 feet tall, with purple scales that shimmer when he's particularly pleased with himself. Which, let's be honest, is most of the time. Vex has spent the last 40 years convincing himself that he's the galaxy's foremost expert on dangerous fauna. He's written 17 books with titles like Predatory Psychology for Dummies and Why Your Pet Will Eventually Eat You, real page-turners, I'm sure. Today, Vex is practically vibrating with excitement because the Academy has received its first human exchange student. You see, humans had just recently been discovered by the Galactic Federation, and most aliens viewed them as adorably harmless. Picture how you might look at a particularly fluffy hamster, and you'll get the idea. Enter Jake Morrison, age 22, from rural Montana. Jake shuffles into the Academy's main hall wearing jeans, boots, and a flannel shirt that's seen better decades. He's got that particular brand of calm that comes from growing up where the nearest neighbor is 5 miles away and the local wildlife includes bears, wolves, and drunk hunters during elk season. Vex takes one look at Jake and practically starts cackling. Here's this supposedly dangerous species representative, and he looks like he should be selling farm insurance or fixing tractors. No claws, no fangs, no natural armor, no psychic abilities. The human doesn't even have proper scales for crying out loud. "Welcome, human specimen," Vex announces to the assembled class of alien students, his voice dripping with condescension. "Behold the newest addition to our student body. Notice the complete lack of any natural defenses. Observe the soft, vulnerable skin. Marvel at the pathetically small teeth." Jake just nods politely and says, "Howdy," which sends several of the alien students into fits of what might charitably be called laughter. A few of the more sophisticated species actually take notes about human greeting rituals, as if howdy represents some profound cultural insight. Vex continues his impromptu lecture, gesturing dramatically with his 4 arms. "Class, this creature represents perhaps the most fascinating paradox in xenobiology. Despite having no natural weapons, no enhanced senses, and no apparent survival instincts, humans have somehow managed to achieve spaceflight. Current theories suggest they accomplished this through sheer dumb luck and an inexplicable tendency to strap explosives to metal tubes." The Andromedan students, who look like walking crystal formations, chime musical notes of amusement. The Rigelians, resembling oversized mantises in lab coats, click their approval. Even the normally stoic Vulcarian delegation, basically angry rocks with attitude problems, seem to be enjoying the show. Jake, meanwhile, is quietly studying the Academy's trophy wall, which displays preserved specimens of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures. There's a plasma worm from the vegan system, a void stalker from the dark nebulae, and something called a friendship destroyer that honestly just looks like a really aggressive houseplant. "Tell me, human Jake," Vex says, savoring the moment like a fine wine. "What experience do you have with dangerous xenofauna?" Jake scratches his chin thoughtfully. "Well, I grew up on a ranch. We had cattle, horses, a few dogs. My neighbor raised ostriches for some reason. Oh, and there was this one time a mountain lion got into our chicken coop." The classroom erupts in alien laughter again. Vex's scales shimmer so brightly he's practically a disco ball. "Fascinating. And I suppose you consider these cattle and chickens to be formidable predators?" "Not particularly," Jake replies with a shrug, "though I did lose a good pair of boots to an angry rooster once." This sends Vex into near hysterics. Here he is, surrounded by students from warrior races and predator worlds, and the human's biggest claim to fame is surviving a poultry attack. This is going to be even more entertaining than he thought. Little does Vex know that he's about to receive the education of several lifetimes, courtesy of one very unimpressed farm boy who's seen it all before. Now, any reasonable instructor might have stopped there, content with having established the human as the class comedy relief. But Vex Thornspike didn't become the galaxy's most arrogant xenobiology professor by being reasonable. No, Vex had a reputation to maintain, and that reputation involved spectacular demonstrations of his superiority over lesser species. "You know what, class?" Vex announces, his scales practically glowing with malicious glee. "I think our human friend needs a proper introduction to real xenobiology. something to help him understand the difference between his barnyard pets and actual dangerous creatures. The alien students exchanged nervous glances. They've seen this look before. This is Vex's "I'm about to do something monumentally stupid but entertaining" expression, and it rarely ends well for anyone involved. Jake just stands there, hands in his pockets, looking about as concerned as someone waiting for a bus. "Sure thing, Professor. Whatever you think is best." Oh, if only Jake knew what was coming. Vex rubs his hands together, all four of them, which creates this disturbing skittering sound that makes everyone in the room uncomfortable. "Excellent. Class, today we're going to witness the ultimate demonstration of species hierarchy, using our Academy's most prized specimen." He activates the room's holographic display system, and suddenly everyone's looking at a three-dimensional image of absolute nightmare fuel. Picture a cross between a saber-toothed tiger, a grizzly bear, and something H.P. Lovecraft might have dreamed up during a particularly bad case of indigestion. This thing stands 12 feet tall at the shoulder, has claws that could slice through starship hull plating, and eyes that glow with an unnatural purple light. "Behold," Vex declares dramatically, "the Ravenclaw beast of Proxima Centauri. 600 pounds of pure, predatory perfection. Intelligence comparable to a Vulcarian philosopher, strength that can crush Durasteel, and psychic abilities that can paralyze prey with fear from 50 meters away." The hologram rotates slowly, showing off the creature's impressive array of natural weaponry. Razor-sharp claws, teeth like titanium daggers, armored hide that deflects most energy weapons, and those disturbing purple eyes that seem to follow you around the room. "This magnificent creature," Vex continues, clearly enjoying himself, "has been the Academy's ultimate test for over 2 decades. We've had Andromedan crystal warriors attempt to commune with it. Rigelian hive minds have tried to overwhelm its consciousness. Even a delegation of vegan battle monks couldn't establish dominance." Jake studies the hologram with the same expression he might use to examine a slightly unusual cow. "Huh, looks ornery." "Ornery?" Vex's voice cracks with indignation. "This creature has hospitalized 47 of the galaxy's most elite xenobiology students. It destroyed 3 containment units, and once ate an entire security detail. The Galactic Federation has classified it as a Class X predator, meaning it's legally considered a weapon of mass destruction." "Yep," Jake nods agreeably. "Definitely ornery." The other students are starting to look genuinely worried now. Several Andromedan crystals are resonating at frequencies that suggest extreme anxiety. The Rigelians are rapidly consulting their collective consciousness, probably trying to find precedents for this level of instructional insanity. But Vex is too far gone to stop now. His ego has taken the wheel, and it's driving straight toward the cliff of poor decision-making. "Here's what we're going to do, Human Jake. You're going to enter the containment arena with the Ravenclaw beast. No weapons, no protective gear, just you and 2,000 years of predatory evolution." "All right," Jake says with the same enthusiasm someone might show for grocery shopping. "How long do I need to be in there?" Vex blinks, all of his eyes, which is unsettling because Zentorians have way too many eyes to begin with. How long? "My dear human, the goal isn't duration. The goal is survival. If you can last 5 minutes without being completely eviscerated, I'll consider it a remarkable success for your species." "Okay, but what am I supposed to do with it?" Now Vex is getting irritated. This human clearly doesn't understand the gravity of the situation. "Do with it? You're supposed to not die horribly while it demonstrates why humans belong at the bottom of the galactic food chain." Jake scratches his head. That seems kinda mean to the critter. Being locked up all the time? Only let out to scare college kids? No wonder it's got attitude problems. The classroom falls silent. Even Vex is momentarily speechless, which for a Zentorian professor is roughly equivalent to a solar eclipse. The idea that anyone might feel sorry for the Ravenclaw beast simply hadn't occurred to him. In his mind, it exists purely as a tool for demonstrating alien superiority. Finally, Vex recovers his composure and lets out a laugh that sounds like grinding metal. "Concern for the beast's emotional well-being. How perfectly human. Very well, Jake Morrison of Montana. Let's see how your mammalian empathy serves you in the arena." Jake just shrugs. "When do we start?" 20 minutes later, the entire Academy is gathered on the observation deck overlooking the containment arena. Picture a gladiatorial coliseum, but with more safety glass and significantly worse life insurance policies for the participants. The arena itself is a circular space about 50 meters across, surrounded by energy barriers that could supposedly stop a rampaging starship. Keyword being supposedly. Jake stands in the center of the arena, still wearing his flannel shirt and looking about as intimidated as someone waiting for a dental cleaning. The alien students are pressed against the observation windows, some recording the event for what they assume will be excellent footage for their xenobiology documentaries. Others are probably taking bets on how quickly the human will be reduced to component molecules. Vex activated the arena's communication system, his voice booming across the space. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted non-binary crystalline entities, witness the demonstration of natural selection in real time, releasing the Ravenclaw beast in 3, 2, 1. The containment door slides open with a hiss that sounds distinctly ominous. For a moment, nothing happens. Then something that can only be described as concentrated nightmare comes charging out of the shadows. The Ravenclaw beast is somehow even more terrifying in person than in the hologram. It moves with the fluid grace of an apex predator, all rippling muscle and barely contained violence. Those purple eyes immediately lock onto Jake with the kind of focus usually reserved for laser-guided missiles. The creature's psychic emanations hit the observation deck like a wave of pure dread, sending several Andromedan students into harmonic panic attacks. What happens next probably violates several laws of physics and definitely violates common sense. Instead of stalking its prey or sizing up the situation like any reasonable predator, the Ravenclaw beast goes absolutely berserk. And I mean completely, utterly, stark raving mad. It starts attacking everything in sight, including things that aren't actually there. It claws at the air, roars at the ceiling, and begins systematically destroying every piece of equipment in the arena. The energy barriers flicker under the psychic assault. Sparks fly from the observation deck's systems as the creature's mental emanations overload the Academy's shielding. Emergency alarms start wailing, which only makes the beast angrier. "This is not normal behavior," Vex announces, though his voice has lost most of its earlier confidence. The beast has never displayed this level of enthusiasm before. Jake, meanwhile, is calmly walking backward toward the arena wall, not running, just casually maintaining distance, while watching the creature's meltdown with professional interest. "How long has it been cooped up in there?" he calls out over the noise. "Approximately 6 months, since its last arena demonstration," Vex shouts back, now frantically working the arena's control systems. 6 months? Jake's voice carries a note of genuine dismay. "No wonder it's having a breakdown. Look at it, it's not attacking me, it's just having a panic attack." And weirdly enough, Jake's right. The Ravenclaw beast isn't hunting, it's just destroying everything within reach, while making sounds that might charitably be called distressed. Think of a grizzly bear having an anxiety attack in a china shop, and you'll get the general idea. The situation rapidly deteriorates when the beast's claws tear through one of the arena's primary power conduits. The energy barriers flicker and fail, and suddenly 600 pounds of psychologically traumatized apex predator has access to the rest of the Academy. The Ravenclaw beast crashes through the failing barrier like it's tissue paper and starts tearing down the corridor toward the main academic halls. The alien students on the observation deck immediately panic, which in a room full of different species creates a symphony of terror that sounds like a malfunctioning orchestra. Andromedan crystals are resonating emergency frequencies, Regellians are clicking in 17 different languages simultaneously, and the Vulcarian students have gone completely silent, which from angry rocks basically means they're preparing to write very stern letters to their families. "Security teams to Arena 7, Vex shouts into his communicator, but the response he gets back is less than encouraging. Apparently, the Academy's security staff consists mainly of bureaucrats and a few maintenance droids that are really only qualified to handle paperwork emergencies. Meanwhile, the Ravenclaw beast is now loose in the Academy's main corridor system, and based on the screaming and the sound of expensive equipment being systematically demolished, it's making excellent time toward the administrative offices. "Perhaps," suggests one of the Andromedan students in a voice like tinkling bells, "we should consider evacuation procedures?" "Nonsense," Vex declares, though his scales have shifted to a nervous yellow color. "This is merely a temporary containment failure. The beast will exhaust itself and return to docile behavior." From somewhere deep in the Academy comes the sound of what might be the cafeteria being redecorated by an extremely angry and confused predator. "Right," Jake says, dusting off his hands. "I'm going to go deal with this before somebody gets hurt." And with that, he starts walking calmly down the corridor in the direction of the destruction, leaving behind a room full of aliens who are suddenly realizing that maybe, just maybe, they've completely misunderstood something fundamental about humans. Following the trail of destruction through the Galactic Academy is remarkably easy. The Ravenclaw beast has left a path of devastated equipment, shredded wall panels, and what appears to be the remains of a very expensive holographic projection system. Jake walks along this trail of chaos like he's following breadcrumbs, completely unbothered by the occasional distant roar or the sound of something expensive being converted into scrap metal. He finds the creature in what used to be the Academy's premium dining facility. The Ravenclaw beast has thoroughly redecorated the space in early destruction style, with overturned tables, shredded furniture, and what might once have been a salad bar scattered across 3 different walls. The beast itself is in the corner, panting heavily and making low, distressed whimpering sounds that no apex predator should ever make. "Hey there, big guy," Jake says in the same tone most people reserve for nervous horses or upset toddlers. "Having a rough day?" The Ravenclaw beast spins around, those purple eyes blazing with psychic energy that would normally paralyze most sentient beings with terror. Jake feels the mental assault hit him like a wave of concentrated anxiety and responds by completely ignoring it. "Yeah, I get it," he continues conversationally, settling down on an overturned chair about 10 feet away from the creature. "Cooped up for 6 months, only let out to scare college kids, nobody paying attention to what you actually need. I'd be cranky too." The beast takes a step forward, claws extended, clearly confused by this prey that isn't running, screaming, or dissolving into a puddle of terror. Its psychic emanations intensify, projecting waves of predatory menace that should, by all rights, turn Jake's brain into terrified jelly. Instead, Jake reaches into his lunch bag and pulls out half a sandwich. "You hungry? I bet they've got you on some kind of scientifically balanced predator diet, right? All nutrients, no flavor? That's gotta suck." He tears off a piece of what appears to be roast beef and tosses it gently toward the creature. The Ravenclaw beast stares at the offering like it's some kind of alien technology, which technically it is, since alien scientists probably never considered that sometimes the best way to calm down an upset predator is to give it a snack. "Back home we had this bull that used to get ornery during breeding season," Jake continues, his voice maintaining that same calm, conversational tone. "Big old thing, probably weigh about as much as you do. Everyone was scared of him, except my granddad. You know what granddad did?" The beast sniffs cautiously at the sandwich piece, its aggressive posture slowly shifting to something more curious than homicidal. "He'd bring that bull apples, just sit on the fence and share his lunch. Took about 3 weeks, but pretty soon that bull would come running whenever he heard Granddad's truck. Turns out, he wasn't mean, he was just lonely and bored out of his mind." Meanwhile, back in the observation area, Vex and the alien students are watching this scene unfold through the Academy's security monitors with the kind of fascination usually reserved for watching traffic accidents in slow motion. Is the human attempting to establish pack dominance?" asks one of the Rigelian students, mandibles clicking nervously. "No," Vex whispers, his scales shifting through a spectrum of colors that suggest complete bewilderment. "I think he's trying to make friends with it." Back in the dining hall, the Ravenclaw beast has cautiously approached the sandwich piece and is giving it experimental sniffs. Jake remains perfectly still, radiating the kind of calm patience that comes from years of dealing with temperamental livestock. "That's it," he murmurs encouragingly. "It's not going to hurt you, just regular food, probably taste better than whatever freeze-dried predator chow they've been feeding you." The creature takes a tentative bite, and its entire demeanor shifts. Those glowing purple eyes widen with what can only be described as surprise. Apparently, roast beef with mustard is a significant upgrade from whatever the Academy's nutritionists have been providing. "Good, right," Jake says, slowly reaching for another piece. "My mom makes the best roast beef in 3 counties. Uses this dry rub recipe her grandmother taught her. The secret is letting it sit overnight." The Ravenclaw beast has now completely abandoned its aggressive posture and is sitting on its haunches, like the galaxy's most dangerous dog, watching Jake with intense focus. When he tosses the second piece, the creature catches it midair and immediately looks hopefully for more. "Oh, now you're getting the idea," Jake chuckles. "Yeah, I've got more, but first how about we work on some basic manners? Can you sit?" And here's where things get really weird. The Ravenclaw beast, this supposedly untrainable apex predator that has terrorized the galaxy's best xenobiology students for 2 decades, looks at Jake for a moment, and then deliberately sits down. "Good boy," Jake says, producing another piece of sandwich. "See how easy that was? Nobody had to get their psychic emanations in a twist. Now, how about we try something a little more advanced?" Through the security monitors, the assembled aliens watch in stunned silence as Jake begins the galaxy's most casual obedience training session. Within minutes, he has the Ravenclaw beast responding to simple commands, following hand signals, and displaying the kind of eager attention that most professors can only dream of getting from their students. "This is impossible," Vex mutters, his voice barely above a whisper. The creature's psychological profile indicates complete resistance to domestication protocols. "Maybe," suggests one of the Andromedan students in a musical tone, "your protocols were wrong." And in the dining hall, Jake Morrison from rural Montana continues his impromptu lesson in practical animal psychology, completely unaware that he's revolutionizing galactic xenobiology one sandwich piece at a time. What happens over the next 30 minutes is nothing short of a complete paradigm shift for everyone watching. Jake doesn't just tame the Ravenclaw beast, he transforms it into what can only be described as the galaxy's most enthusiastic and overpowered puppy. It starts with the basics. After the creature has learned to sit reliably, Jake moves on to stay. He holds up his hand in a classic stop gesture and takes a step backward. The Ravenclaw beast, still focused intently on the remaining sandwich, trembles with the effort of not moving. Its tail, which apparently has been there all along but nobody noticed because they were too busy being terrified, starts doing this tentative wagging motion. "Good boy," Jake says warmly and tosses another piece of roast beef. "See, nobody's trying to trick you or hurt you. We're just having a conversation." Through the security monitors, Vex is having what can only be described as an existential crisis. His scales have gone completely gray, which, in Zentorians, indicates either deep thought or complete system shutdown. "This violates everything we know about Class X predator psychology," he whispers to himself. "The creature should be attempting to establish dominance, not wagging." The Regalian students are chittering among themselves in their collective consciousness, probably updating their entire database of predatory behavior in real time. The Andromedan crystals have shifted to resonant frequencies that suggest they're recording everything for posterity, or possibly therapy. Back in the dining hall, Jake has moved on to down. The Ravenclaw beast stretches out on the floor with surprising grace, those massive claws carefully tucked under its body to avoid scratching the floor. When Jake approaches, instead of preparing to pounce, the creature rolls partway onto its side to expose its belly. "Oh, you want belly rubs?" Jake asks with genuine delight. "Well, why didn't you just say so?" And that's how the galaxy's most feared predator ends up getting belly rubs from a human exchange student while making sounds that can only be described as purring. Except when a 600-pound psychic death machine purrs, it sounds like a diesel engine running at idle, and the vibrations make the remaining intact dishes on the nearby tables rattle musically. "The acoustic resonance is actually quite pleasant," observes one of the Andromedan students, who apparently has shifted from terror to professional appreciation. Jake scratches behind what might be the creature's ears, though on the Ravenclaw beast they look more like armored ridges. "You've been trying to tell people you were lonely this whole time, haven't you? But they kept putting you in that little box and only letting you out to be scary. No wonder you were stressed." The creature's purring intensifies, and its hind leg starts doing that involuntary kicking motion that dogs get when you hit the right spot. Except when the Ravenclaw beast does it, its foot is roughly the size of a dinner plate and has claws that could carve through starship hull plating. "Remarkable," breathes Vex, though he sounds more horrified than impressed. "In 23 years of xenobiology research, I have never observed a Class X Vex predator displaying submission behaviors." "Maybe," suggests one of the Vulcarian students in a voice like grinding granite, "it was never actually a Class X predator. Maybe it was just a very large, very lonely animal that you people kept treating like a weapon." This comment hits the observation deck like a diplomatic incident. Several alien species begin muttering among themselves in ways that suggest they're having similar realizations about their own research methods. Meanwhile, Jake has moved on to the advanced course. "All right, big guy, let's try something fun. You see this?" He picks up one of the destroyed pieces of dining furniture, a curved metal strut about 2 feet long. "This is called fetch. I'm going to throw it, and you're going to bring it back to me. Think you can handle that?" The Ravenclaw beast tilts its massive head, those purple eyes focusing on the metal piece with the kind of intense concentration usually reserved for complex mathematical equations. Jake winds up and tosses the strut across the dining hall, where it clatters against the far wall. For a moment, nothing happens. The creature looks at Jake, then at the thrown object, then back at Jake with an expression that clearly says, "You want me to do what now?" "Go get it," Jake encourages, pointing toward the strut. "Bring it back." And incredibly, impossibly, the Ravenclaw beast trots across the dining hall, delicately picks up the metal strut in its massive jaws and brings it back to Jake, dropping it at his feet with the kind of precision that suggests it understands exactly what's expected. "Good boy!" Jake exclaims, producing what appears to be the last piece of his sandwich. "That was perfect!" The creature's tail is now wagging so vigorously that it's creating small air currents in the dining hall. Its entire body language has shifted from apex predator to extremely large dog who has just discovered the concept of games. Jake throws the strut again, and this time the Ravenclaw beast practically bounds after it, moving with a playful energy that's completely at odds with its fearsome reputation. When it brings the object back, it performs a perfect sit and places the strut directly in Jake's outstretched hand. "Outstanding," Jake grins. "Now let's see. Can you shake hands?" He extends his hand toward the creature's massive paw. The Ravenclaw beast studies this gesture for a moment, then carefully lifts one front paw and places it in Jake's hand, with the kind of delicate control that suggests it's very aware of its own strength. The paw, incidentally, is roughly the size of a dinner plate and equipped with claws that could probably cut through most known materials. Jake shakes it solemnly, as if he's greeting a business associate rather than a creature that was terrorizing the academy 30 minutes ago. "Pleasure to meet you properly," Jake says formally. "I'm Jake Morrison. What should I call you?" The Ravenclaw beast makes a sound that might charitably be called a chirp, though when filtered through a 600-pound body it comes out as more of a melodious rumble. "Sounds like Murphy to me," Jake decides. "How does that work for you, Murphy?" Murphy, the former terror of the galaxy, responds by wagging his tail so hard that he nearly knocks himself over. Through the security monitors, the assembled alien students watch this transformation with the kind of stunned silence usually reserved for witnessing fundamental laws of physics being casually violated. Vex, meanwhile, has progressed from existential crisis to what appears to be a complete re-evaluation of his entire career. 23 years, he whispers to himself. 23 years of research, and a human solved it with lunch meat and basic kindness. And in the dining hall, Jake Morrison continues his impromptu masterclass in practical animal psychology, completely unaware that he's just revolutionized galactic xenobiology and possibly ended several promising academic careers. The full scope of what has just occurred doesn't really hit the assembled aliens until Jake and Murphy come walking back into the observation area together. And by together, I mean Murphy is walking beside Jake with the kind of devoted attention usually reserved for seeing eye dogs, except this particular seeing eye dog could probably take on a small army and win. The alien students part like the Red Sea as Jake strolls casually through their midst, Murphy padding along beside him with his tail wagging and occasionally bumping Jake's shoulder with his massive head in what can only be described as affectionate head bonks. The creature that 30 minutes ago was the Academy's ultimate terror is now acting like Jake's personal bodyguard and best friend, rolled into one terrifying package. "Afternoon, everyone," Jake says cheerfully to the stunned crowd. "Sorry about the mess in the dining hall. Murphy here was having a bit of an anxiety attack. Nothing a little attention and some decent food couldn't fix." Vex stares at this scene with the expression of someone watching their entire worldview crumble in real time. His scales have now shifted to a color that doesn't appear in any known Zentarian emotional spectrum, possibly because no Zentarian has ever experienced this particular combination of humiliation, bewilderment, and grudging respect. But, the psychological conditioning protocols," Vex stammers. "The dominance establishment procedures, the fear-based compliance matrices." Jake scratches Murphy behind those armored ear ridges, which produces a sound like a happy motorcycle. "Yeah, about that. Has anyone here ever actually studied animal behavior? Like, actual animal behavior, not whatever theoretical stuff you've got in your textbooks?" The silence that follows is the kind usually associated with funeral services or failed exam results. "Because here's the thing," Jake continues, apparently interpreting their silence as genuine interest rather than stunned horror. "Murphy here isn't a weapon or a test subject or whatever you've been treating him as. He's just a really big, really smart animal who's been stuck in solitary confinement for months at a time. No social interaction, no mental stimulation, no variety in his environment. You're basically giving him sensory deprivation torture and then acting surprised when he has psychological problems." Murphy, as if to emphasize Jake's point, sits down and places one massive paw on Jake's shoulder in a gesture that's clearly protective. The message is unmistakable. This human is under the protection of 600 pounds of psychic death machine, and anyone who wants to argue with Jake's assessment will have to go through Murphy first. The creature displays no signs of domestication syndrome, protests one of the Rigelian students, though his mandibles are clicking nervously. Our behavioral analysis indicates complete resistance to socialization protocols. That's because your socialization protocols are garbage, Jake replies with the kind of blunt honesty that probably violates several diplomatic conventions. You can't socialize an animal by sticking it in a box and only letting it out to be scary. That's not socialization, that's psychological torture, with extra steps. He produces a water bottle from his backpack and offers it to Murphy, who delicately takes it in his massive jaws and tilts his head back to drink without crushing the container. The level of fine motor control required for this maneuver is frankly astounding, and it clearly demonstrates that Murphy has been capable of gentle behavior all along. Look at him, Jake continues. He's got the cognitive capacity of, what? Maybe a border collie? Probably smarter. High intelligence, high energy, strong pack instincts. Of course he's going to have behavioral problems if you treat him like a living weapon instead of a social creature with complex emotional needs. Vex is now making sounds that suggest his vocal cords are having their own existential crisis. But the classification systems, the threat assessment protocols, 23 years of research. We were based on observing a psychologically traumatized animal in an artificial environment, Jake finishes. It's like studying human behavior by locking someone in solitary confinement for 6 months, and then being surprised when they don't react well to strangers. Murphy's not naturally aggressive, he's just been driven half crazy by isolation and boredom. To demonstrate his point, Jake pulls out his phone and starts showing Murphy pictures of his family's ranch. The creature leans in close, studying the screen with intense interest, occasionally making soft, questioning sounds when he sees something particularly intriguing, like the horses or the barn cats. See? Curiosity, pattern recognition, social engagement. These are the behaviors of an intelligent social species, not a mindless killing machine. One of the Andromedan students resonates a musical question. But what about the psychic emanations, the terror field projection? Jake shrugs. Anxiety response. When Murphy gets stressed, his psychic abilities broadcast his emotional state. It's not an attack, it's basically the equivalent of stress crying, except instead of tears, it's waves of mental distress that make everyone around him feel terrible too. This observation hits the assembled aliens like a revelation. Several species are now looking at their notes and recording equipment with expressions that suggest they're realizing their entire approach to xenobiology might be fundamentally flawed. Murphy, Jake says, show them your happy feelings. And incredibly, Murphy's psychic emanations shift from their usual neutral state to something that can only be described as contentment made manifest. The aliens in the observation area suddenly find themselves feeling inexplicably cheerful and relaxed, as if they've just received good news from home. Emotional broadcasting works both ways, Jake explains. Happy Murphy makes everyone around him feel good. Stressed Murphy makes everyone feel terrible. It's not a weapon, it's just how he communicates his emotional state to his pack. Vex slumps against the observation window, looking like someone who's just discovered that their life's work has been based on a fundamental misunderstanding. So everything we thought we knew was wrong, Jake confirms cheerfully. But hey, that's how science works, right? You get new data, you update your theories. Speaking of which, you folks might want to consider hiring some actual animal behaviorists. Maybe some people who've worked with large, intelligent predators before. I can give you some recommendations. He scratches Murphy's chin, which produces more of those happy diesel engine purrs. As for this guy, he's going to need a better living situation. Bigger space, regular social interaction, mental stimulation, proper exercise. Basically, he needs to be treated like the intelligent social creature he is, not like a piece of laboratory equipment. Murphy chooses this moment to demonstrate his newfound training by performing an unprompted sit-stay, then rolling over and presenting his belly for scratches. The sight of the galaxy's former ultimate terror lying on his back with his tongue hanging out, looking for belly rubs, pretty much destroys what's left of the alien student's preconceptions about predatory behavior. I don't suppose, Vex asks weakly, you'd be interested in a permanent position here at the Academy? Jake considers this for a moment while Murphy continues his impromptu belly rub session. Depends. Can I bring Murphy home with me for weekends? He's going to need regular visits to places with more space to run around. Maybe meet some of the other animals. The thought of Murphy meeting Jake's ranch animals produces a collective shudder from the alien students, though whether it's fear for the livestock or fear that Murphy might prefer life on a Montana ranch to being the Academy's star specimen is unclear. I think, Jake says, standing up and dusting off his hands, that's going to work out just fine. Come on, Murphy. Let's go see if they've got anything better than that freeze-dried stuff for your dinner. And with that, Jake Morrison from rural Montana walks out of the observation area with his new 600-pound psychic companion trotting beside him like an oversized, overpowered golden retriever. Behind them, they leave a room full of alien xenobiology students, who are suddenly questioning everything they thought they knew about predatory behavior, animal psychology, and the supposed hierarchy of galactic intelligence. Vex, meanwhile, is still slumped against the observation window, staring at his life's work in complete bewilderment, and wondering if maybe, just maybe, the humans might have a few more surprises in store for the galaxy. Murphy's happy purring echoes down the corridor as they disappear around the corner, probably heading for the cafeteria to see if they have anything better than scientifically balanced predator nutrition pellets. And somewhere in the Academy's administrative offices, a very nervous dean is probably trying to figure out how to update their insurance policies to cover friendly visits from reformed apex predators. But that's a problem for another day. For now, Jake Morrison has single-handedly revolutionized galactic xenobiology, using nothing more than basic kindness, half a sandwich, and the kind of practical animal sense that apparently doesn't get taught in advanced alien universities. Sometimes the simplest solutions really are the best ones.